Hi everybody. Okay, I keep messing with my not my filters, but my ratios, and this just is all wrong. And I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I'm very sorry if this looks like crap and sounds like crap. So anyway, it's GARBAUGUST. So, okay, maybe a trashy picture is good for GARBAUGUST because, you know, we're all trash. Here, let's see if we get some light on it. Ooh, got that dramatic side light. Alrighty, GARBAUGUST. And that's the wrong piece of paper. We'll do that. Let's see here. You know what? I wrote everything down. And I don't have my list. Oh well. Hang on one sec. Found it. Alright, so before I start with GARBAUGUST, I want to review TBR by McKeen. It was okay. My friend Susie brought this to me in the hospital because she doesn't know anything about horror, but she wanted to bring me something to read, and so she asked the person at the bookstore, what's a horror novel, and this is the one they recommended. So it's by a Canadian author, set in London, Ontario, which fits into the, you know, we were talking about mayhem and semi-local setting. So London is about an hour west of here. Get my directions wrong. And it is, like I think I mentioned before, when whichever prime minister it was, I think it was Diefenbaker, not sure, drew a line from Windsor to Toronto and drew 2 dots on it. London was one, Kitchener-Waterloo was the other, and that's where they kind of built the towns around. They were totally built based on the railroad. So set on the dot on the map that is London, Ontario, which actually is a very big city. I think there's about 1 million people in London, so it's not a small city by any means. So anyway, so it's about this young woman named Frances, who is a student at the University of Western Ontario, which I believe is now just called Western University. And it's set in 2015, and it's about, and so she and 3 other girls live in this house, and Frances lives in the basement. And one night, Frances goes upstairs, discovers that the door's locked. And this is basically Frances running. It's 150 pages of Frances running around, scratching at the walls, and it's really annoying for the first half. But as she's running around, scratching at the walls, she is looking back on her life where she grew up. And unfortunately, you know, I didn't hate it. I thought it got better in the second half. But it's really, really, really annoying because these are university students in 2015. Why doesn't she have a goddamn fucking phone? And I mean, it's that question overhangs everything because horror is best when it is isolated. But we live in a time where we are not isolated. And until you have, you know, the big reveal at the end, all you're going to do is drive your audience crazy. So anyway, so I think the first half was less interesting than the second half. The second half was really weird. And it was good, but the premise of it got a little bit clunky at times, I think. So anyway, if I've piqued your curiosity, I think it is worth a read, but I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It had good things. It was well written. But there were things about it that annoyed the hell out of me. So TBR by McKeen. Canadian author, though, I will always try to prop up. The other book I read this week, you know, actually, I was considering doing a dramatic reading of the introduction to Project 2025, and I started it, but I got really ranty. And, you know, I want to have fun on this channel. I don't want to get too involved in politics unless it's something so completely ridiculous like the MAGA hat romances. This is just a little bit too real world frustrating and scary to really poke too much fun at. But if you want to learn more about Project 2025, it is terrifying. It's straight out of Putin's playbook, and it basically is going to set Trump up, or whoever Republican takes his place, as a dictator for life, turn America into Russia while the dictator lines all his pockets like Putin does, and everybody else is going to be living in Gilead. If Project 2025 does come to fruition, it's some scary stuff. So I was going to do a dramatic reading and response, but yeah, that might actually invite all the maggots and the red hat crazies, and I just don't want to do that. So, which brings us to GARBAUGUST. So the first book that I read, and actually my first DNF, in honor of the Christian nationalists, who people are shortening to Nat-Cs. Last year I discovered that Joseph, is it pronounced Goebbels? Goebbels? That madman who was Hitler's propagandist actually wrote a novel when he was in his 20s. Somewhere in the 1920s, and it was never published until later. Reading it, I know why. It's about 200 pages long, and apparently it's 2 of 3 parts. I guess the third part was never recovered. And it's terrible. This is why I DNF'd. It's over 200 pages. Well, it's just over 200 pages, like 202 pages. I read about 134 pages, and I mean, I just couldn't figure out what the hell he was getting at. So I just chucked it. I couldn't read anymore. But it's basically about a young man sort of tripping around, going to university, going to the beach, looking at the flowers, meeting a woman. I love Herta Holke, or whatever her name is. And then he goes to Heidelberg, and he uses some exclamation points. And this is like all of it. And okay, this is good. Not to mock one of my, okay, so I have a friend who he has kept a handwritten journal, since he was a teenager. And I'm a better typist than he is, so I typed out one of his journals for him. And when he was a teenager, he wrote these things, and there was this one passage that even he laughed at. He thinks it's the funniest thing ever. He said, well, this book is like my collected wisdom on things, right? I think he was all 17 when he wrote that, right? And I mean, what 17-year-old has any collected wisdom to impart? But, and this is the sort of pretentious, self-involved writing that this book is. These are the ramblings of a pretentious, just out of his teens guy studying philosophy. And I mean, bless his heart. But he's the character of, oh, I forgot to mention, the novel is called Michael, and apparently it's autobiographical. And he's this like wide-eyed young man, until every once in a while he'll mention Jews, and then he's just like this crazy, angry, racist bigot, and it's like, what the hell, where did that come from? There's this one part where he's writing about, because he's Catholic, he's writing about how great Jesus is and how great God is, and how Jesus can't possibly have been a Jew because, Jews are, I mean, it's baffling. But I guess, in your 20s, you have blinders on and you're a fool about the world, and then he meets somebody who is kind of turning his world around, and I think that's where I stopped. But yeah, I don't know what the hell he was trying to say with it. But Michael by Joseph Goebbels, it is out there. It's being reprinted on Amazon, where they charged money for it. I wasn't going to pay money for it, so I went to Scribd, SCRIBD, where the first 30 days are free, and then you have to pay a monthly fee to get at what's on it. Ooh, let me just check and make sure my battery's still good. Okay, I've been draining my battery lately, not good. If you want to check it out, I wouldn't recommend it, but I'm gonna give it 5 trash cans out of 5 because it is absolute garbage. And speaking of trash, so I wrote down what I might be reading for GARBAUGUST. Not 100% on it, but and I'm probably not going to make too many of the bingo cards just because I have a hard time concentrating in my living situation. I'll be lucky to get through the ones that I've already chosen, but let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's see, I can get through it. So for the first week is Anything Goes, and I've chosen The Devils of D-Day by Graham Masterton. Now, over on my Instagram, I put up a picture of one of the former covers, and it is crap-tastic. I love the cover. It is this multi-eyed demon, this lurid orange background, and it's rising out of a tank. And I'm only partway through the first chapter, but from what I can figure out, it's modern day, right? So it was written in the late 70s, early 80s. I think it was published in like 1979. And the tank appears to be possessed, and it's this old World War II tank. So we'll have to see. The other book that I will probably read a Sweet Valley High book. If not this week, then at some point, because they're on Kindle Unlimited. And R.I.P. Francine Pascal just passed away a couple days ago. So, I mean, age 92, she had a fantastic run. She wrote some of our favorite books, many of them, you know, for great fodder for GARBAUGUST. But, you know, in honor, I'm going to read some of that. Oh, and her first book, Hanging Out with Cece, I read that as a kid, and it was made into an after-school special. And there is actually a riff tracks on YouTube if you want to go look for it. Or I can actually, if I remember, I'll try to put it in the doobly-doo. So second week is Men's Adventure or Category Romance, which I think is it's supposed to be like Harlequin romance, but I might just read a regular romance because I recently rewatched a TV movie called Baby Cakes, starring Ricki Lake, who we all know started her career as the star of Hairspray, which was made by the king of trash cinema himself, John Waters. So this is the next film that she made. It's a TV movie called Baby Cakes, and there's a lot to unpack in it. And then I have a plus-size romance book about a woman who's, it appears to be like her husband was a serial killer, and she falls in love with somebody from the Russian mafia, and she's a plus-size girl or something. I don't know, but it's only 100 pages, so I'm going to check it out. So that's for the romance category, and I've picked up one of the Endless Born books that Robert Ludlum stopped writing because he died, and has been picked up by somebody else. So we'll be talking about that. Hopefully I'll finish that. If not, I'll carry that to the Sex and or Violence week, which is week 3. For week 3, if I can get to it, I've got a book. I've got Live Girls by Ray Garton. Again, Ray Garton passed away last year, so let's read in honor. And then I've also got another book by Jeff O'Brien that has some green on the cover, so hopefully I will be able to get those 2 books read in the 3rd week. And then week 4, I've been looking forward to novelization or a book that was made in, or a book that was made into a miniseries in the 70s and 80s, which is my jam. I absolutely love these. I already when last I spoke to you, I talked about some great books that were made into miniseries, and I believe it was Steve Donahue I was watching today. He said, no, there were some wonderful books that were made into TV miniseries. Yes, but we're not talking about those. We're not talking about Roots. Roots was a fantastic book. We're talking about Hollywood Wives. We're talking about Lace. We're talking about, anything by Judith Krantz, anything by Danielle Steele, anything by Sidney Sheldon. I can go on and on. Harold Robbins, I think there was something made. I want to say the Carpetbaggers, maybe? No. Anyway, whatever. You know the ones I'm talking about. So the book that I've chosen, which is one of the all-time great trashy novels made into a trashy TV miniseries. And again, the king of trashy TV miniseries, Richard Chamberlain, is in it. The Thornbirds. I've been reading it for a long time, and I'm only about 30% of the way through. So hopefully I'll finish it by the end of the month. If not, then I'll hang my head in shame. And the other thing I have is the novelization of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, written by Quentin Tarantino. So hopefully I can get through all of these. I do have a couple other ones. I've got a ninja book if I get to it. I've got some other things if I get to them. But I've got about 10 books planned, so hopefully, fingers crossed, I can get them all read and have enough concentration. And then at some point, the Garbology will arrive, maybe. I have a story in it, and if you're interested, if you don't want to read the story, or if you have read my story and you just want to check out, you know, the audio version, I guess, for your amusement and entertainment in another video, which I would put here if I knew how to do that. I read it, so if you want to go check out that, it's elsewhere on my channel. It's 2 videos ago. So lots going on for GARBAUGUST. There is a whole bunch of stuff on the bingo card. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on other creators' channels. And shout out again to Criminali for you know, this being his, you know, lead paint fed brainchild. And all of the other creators, there's a whole list of them, but I don't have it with me. Like I said, I forgot my notes. And let's just make this a great GARBAUGUST. It's one of the, you know, best times of the year. So I hope you're reading lots of horror. Hope I can get through my TBR. Have a great day.